It started on a warm summer evening, the kind where the sunlight clings to the sky, reluctant to fade. I stood at the kitchen window, watching as the golden light spilled across the garden, coloring everything in soft tones of amber and blush. Life had quieted down after years of rushing from one thing to the next, and I had learned to treasure these peaceful, thoughtful moments. That evening, I was waiting for Ethan. He had been away studying at university, and although we had stayed in contact, nothing compared to the feeling of seeing him again face to face. Ethan wasn't connected to me by blood, but life has its own way of binding people together. When his father married my sister years ago, Ethan was just a shy boy. After my sister's sudden passing, I stepped in to help around the house, not out of duty, but because it felt right. Over time, Ethan and I developed something close, something hard to name. It wasn't quite family, not quite friendship. It was made up of quiet understanding, long talks, and an easy sense of comfort. Now, he was coming back, not as a boy, but as a young man. A man with steady eyes and a thoughtful manner. I wasn't sure what to expect. Time alters people. I wondered if the gentle thread that once tied us together had remained. When the doorbell finally rang, I opened it and saw him standing there, taller and more composed, but with the same warm eyes. "You haven't changed a bit," he said with a grin, stepping inside with his bag slung over his shoulder. "And you've grown up," I replied, quietly amazed by how mature he seemed. His voice was deeper, his presence calm and steady. That night, we ate dinner and caught up. There was laughter, small silences, and stories that stretched late into the evening. Ethan shared bits of his life at university, his hopes, his setbacks, and the things that had shaped him. I listened, smiling often, moved by how sincerely he spoke about his future. He still had that quiet sensitivity about him, only now wrapped in confidence. In the following days, we found a rhythm again, like slipping into an old, familiar tune. We cooked meals together, sipped tea in the afternoons, and sat in the garden during dusk, speaking softly or not at all. There was peace in our silences, an ease that needed no explanation. One evening, as we strolled through the garden, a breeze caught me off guard, and I shivered. Ethan noticed right away. "Here," he said, pulling off his jacket and gently placing it over my shoulders. As I looked up to thank him, our eyes met. And there was something in that look, something tender, unspoken, that made my breath catch. We didn't mention it, but that moment left something behind. After that, everything felt a little more meaningful. He began to touch me more often, but only softly, a hand brushing my hair away, a lingering glance as he handed me my cup. Nothing bold, just small, thoughtful gestures. Then one night, after a long talk beside the fire, I stood to head to bed. Ethan reached out and rested his hand lightly over mine. "Do you ever wonder how life might have turned out if we had met in a different way?" he asked, his voice hushed. "Sometimes," I replied. "But life gave us what it did, and we made the most of it." He nodded slowly, his thumb lightly tracing my knuckles before letting go. "I just hope that one day we won't need to keep our feelings quiet." Even then, we never crossed any lines. But the space between us had changed. We moved a little slower around each other, but closer too. It wasn't infatuation, not some sudden flame. It was something grown gently over time. A bond made of kindness, shared moments, and trust. One sunny afternoon, we worked together in the garden. We planted new flowers and trimmed back the old growth. As we worked side by side, our hands would sometimes brush. Each time, we'd smile softly. The air between us didn't need filling. The silence was full of warmth. Everything shifted one rainy evening. We had gone for a walk just before the sky broke open. We came home soaked and breathless from laughter. I handed Ethan a towel, about to head upstairs, but he stopped me. "Wait," he said, stepping closer, his eyes searching mine like he needed to say something that couldn't wait another second. "I don't want to step too far, but I have to tell you this," he said. You've always been home to me. Even when I was away, when I felt lost or uncertain, it was your voice that stayed with me. You were always the place I returned to in my mind. I felt tears rise, not from sadness, but from the deep place his words touched. You mean everything to me, too, I whispered. But I worry about what others would say, about how different our lives have been. He smiled and gently wiped a raindrop from my cheek. Let them say what they want. We know the truth. And that's enough. From that night forward, we no longer held back what we felt. We moved forward carefully, with respect. There were no sudden declarations or wild moments. Only deeper connection. Our mornings became slower, full of quiet touches and shared glances. Our walks turned softer, sometimes ending in long, wordless moments beneath the stars. When the time came for Ethan to return to university, the goodbye was gentle, but heavy. "Will you wait for me?" he asked, his voice low. "Always," I said. And I meant it. Through that year, we remained close. He visited when he could, and each visit deepened what we already had. It wasn't just love anymore. It was friendship, trust, and something unshakable. Something that had taken root long ago and had quietly grown stronger with each season. When Ethan finally completed his studies, he didn't return as a guest. He came back as someone ready to stay. We took our time, making sure each step we took was with care, keeping everything grounded in openness and honesty. To others, what we had might have seemed strange. But to us, it was natural. We had built something real, slowly, steadily, with love and patience. We hadn't planned it. We hadn't searched for it. But we had found it anyway. Years have gone by since then. And every morning, I still wake up beside him, feeling grateful. Ours isn't just a story about love. It's a story about timing, about trust, and about the quiet beauty of connection that grows in its own way. Because sometimes, love doesn't follow the expected path. Sometimes, it simply finds you, softly, steadily, and forever. He got up, came to my side, and knelt down. Then let me stay. Let me keep changing things. And so we did. Quietly, gently. Our moments were borrowed. A smile over the fence. A few words in the garden. Books exchanged under the excuse of neighborly kindness. But behind closed doors, what we had was ours. Private. Sacred. One night, we lay on the rooftop, a blanket beneath us. The stars above us like tiny scattered jewels. Our hands barely touching. "Do you think this will last?" he asked. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But I know I'll never forget it." He turned toward me, his face only inches from mine. "Neither will I." There were no promises. No forever declarations. Just the two of us in that moment. And that was enough. As the months passed, our bond grew stronger. He began writing poetry, quiet, thoughtful lines that he only shared with me. I started painting again, moved by how he saw me, how he made me feel. It wasn't a love story people would understand, but it was real, and it was ours. One morning, I found a small envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a handwritten note. "You made me believe in love when I thought it was too early to feel it. You made me feel loved when I thought it was too late to find it." Zion, I held the note to my chest, letting the tears come freely. He was everything I never knew I needed. And maybe one day the world would understand. But even if it never did, I would hold this quiet, secret chapter close to my heart. Because love doesn't always follow the rules. Sometimes it simply finds you,